Triton just asks, is there regular video of these jellyfish or just FLIR? Now, there are previous cases and footage, particularly some in South America, seen one in Europe, about these anomalous jellyfish-looking kind of objects, but it was also articulated during Project Blue Book. I think it was in 1967, where there were about 20 or so witnesses that happened to see an anomalous jellyfish looking kind of object. So it stretches back in historical antiquity in that regard. Great question, Triton.
High technology that's being brought to the consumer markets, as well as a lot of tech that isn't available and isn't widely known in those markets. I'll also add that I spent a good portion of the last 4 years, about half, on the development of a hyperspectral imaging system that was DoD grade, something that if you bought off the shelf from a tier 1 supplier would cost in the neighborhood of $300,000 unequipped. This imaging system was for ultraviolet, infrared, and visible portions of the spectrum, and included thermography components, as does IR, which is what we're seeing in this video, the main video. I don't know, and I want to be respectful here, I don't know what your experience is, but this is not an artifact. Other assets are not deployed by DoD resources to investigate artifacts. There are narrow AI systems in place to validate and verify targets captured on these systems. And I know, because of how bizarre this artifact looks, most individuals' instinct is to jump immediately to artifact. However, as Great Druid pointed out, this is something that's been captured multiple times. Assets were deployed for V&V purposes. That's validation and verification. Yeah, this is not an artifact. This is a real instance of a UAP that's been confirmed by those divisions within USG and DoD. And as the original poster, Jeremy Corbell mentions, there are other sets of footage that confirm this, other instances in which this was encountered. And I think something that Jeremy nor many other individuals that are talking about this really point out is the fact that this footage does not become unclassified until there are no longer any potential threats to classified intel, right? And what I'm getting at there is this is relatively old footage, and it's safe to presume, based on the fact that this footage was unclassified, that this has been an ongoing thing. This is not a new instance of this particular UAP. And they are confident that releasing this footage, would not have any negative impacts to existing classification or classified materials. So, us desk researchers, bedside PhDs, if you will, with respect to this information, are not going to be able to glean any significant intel from the footage that's released. And nor should we ever expect we'll be able to, because there are other subject matter experts and professionals that look over this these clips before they're unclassed. Anyway, bottom line, global subject matter expert in instrumentation and control systems, and this is a real thing.
Wow. So that fellow certainly has the acumen and experience to rightly comment on this latest release from Jeremy Corbell. And when I first saw the footage, I'll be honest. The skeptic in me was like, okay, wait, you're only as good as your last showing or your last work, right? And I think everyone in here can remember that 29 Palms incident, where Mr. Corbell and Mr. Knapp on a episode of Weaponized had released footage thinking that these triangular shaped orbs were actual, like it was an actual structural craft until I guess Greenwald from the Black Vault, among other skeptics, had pointed out other pictures that maybe weren't released to Corbell at the time, that hey, these were military flares and this was a military training exercise. And they subsequently showed the flares dropping up, dropping down, losing altitude with the smoke coming off of it in night vision. So part of me was like, okay, maybe this is some kind of a misunderstanding of sorts, So, I do admit that pretty much fueled my initial skepticism with this latest release, yeah. Any thoughts on that, Grey Druid? Or Leslie? Anyone?
I mean, I think when it comes down to any of these type of releases, we have to always be diligent in knowing that this could be potentially fake or a psyop, just as much as it's potentially a controlled release for an agenda. Like, and I know we all kind of try to think through all these possibilities, but I think the one thing that, and this goes for Corbell as well, with all the different work that he's done and getting all this information out, being a spokesperson, just because he gets one bit of information wrong does not mean that discredit him at all. And that shouldn't be something that stops any of us. Like, I've said before, we have to treat everything almost like we're our own intelligence agency. We're probably going to get bad information, but we have to be due diligent as much as we are with believing these things, as also of like, okay, let's take a step back and let's actually vet this and see if this actually holds water. And I think that is in very, very important moving forward with 2024, with the all this disclosure, because there is going to be bad information that does come out. There's going to be agendas. There's going to be political agendas as well. So I think that shouldn't dishearten anybody, even if this footage came out as being, potentially bird poop or whatever else. I think, they have to be right. They have to disprove everything all the time, but there only takes one bit of, footage to be released that's legit to power this on, and there's no stuffing it back in the box.
Well said. And with that in mind, the stakes are incredibly high. And, in order to understand where we are currently at with respect to disclosure and where we could be going, we also have to be mindful of the past. And, I'm reminded of prior instances where the government has, certainly sent its disinfo agents out in the field to infiltrate UFO groups, like, Richard Doty. He fed a bunch of luminaries some bunk information throughout the years, right? And it's caused a lot of damage in terms of credibility to the people that he was disseminating this information to. The main chatter that I'm seeing in different platforms, from Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, different Discord servers, about this latest release is people wanting to see supposedly that 17-minute video where this UAP went in the water, it hung out there for quite a bit, then it comes out and shoots off at a 45-degree angle. Right now I'm about 80% believing that this thing could be an anomalous UAP. 20% of me, it's still kind of skeptical, but what would truly seal the deal would be seeing that footage. And I know Corbell mentioned in this Tubi interview that this footage is perhaps classified, right? Unless anyone has heard anything different. Druid, any thoughts on that?
I think there could also be some red tape around this particular UAP, just the fact that if it's been, and this could be said for a lot of UAP sightings, but if these things have been seen close to nuclear facilities, I think there could be also certain things they're trying to keep from on that regard. I could just be reaching, but yeah, no, I think sorry, I lost my train of thought. Give me a moment.
It's all good. And while you capture that train of thought, when I analyze and look at the behavior of this particular UAP, it flew over a military base in Iraq. It was also camouflaged. Supposedly the reports say you can't see it with the naked human eye, and it had some kind of active cloaking system in addition to it jamming sensors and whatnot. And if this is the very same UAP that's been kind of surveilling our nuclear assets, and when I look at the behavior of this object, or perhaps this creature, could it somehow be gaining some kind of intel about our offensive and defensive capabilities? And, I think any sensical DoD employee or military person would say, hey, this might be a concern.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to any UAPs, like, it's obviously the highest degree of worry from the DoD, and because this is even more secretive than nuclear capabilities. I think it's really interesting though that it's been other footage of it has been shown. It's kind of just doing its own thing, floating through the air. I know there was a bit of information. I don't think it was on Reddit. I can't remember. Someone stated that they had possibly it was seen next to gentleman's cattle that were being, cattle mutilation. And he actually saw it. There's other, talks about these jellyfish, but it's really hard to make any hardline discernments of what these UAPs are. And, if it's all connected to the same type of UAPs that we see, disc-shaped sphere, they could be completely different species or, social groups that are doing this. It could just be interdimensional that is just going through, just doing its thing. We really don't know. And this also comes back to, so the gentleman Morpheus that is featured on we just watched this video. He's told me before that he has buddies that have done the different thermal imaging cameras and everything, and they've picked up things just flying through. It includes, he mentioned, I believe it was jellyfish, but it was some other type of things swimming. He's used the word swimming through the atmosphere. So, there could be a lot of these that are interdimensional, or that we just can't see in the visual spectrum, that are they've been here all along with us and we just don't know. So it's super, super cool though. And I'm not just saying that because I'm, low-key a Zerg player from, but it's really awesome stuff. It's really great thing to start off 2024 for sure.